I had one rule: never get involved with a client. In 15 years of practicing law, I'd never broken it. Not once. Then Victoria Ashford walked into my office, elegant, powerful, and somehow both ice cold and burning hot. She needed a lawyer for her divorce. Simple, professional. Except nothing about Victoria was simple, and every time she looked at me with those storm gray eyes, my carefully constructed walls started crumbling. By the time I realized I was in trouble, it was already too late. Some lines, once crossed, change everything. The rain hammered against my office window like it had a personal vendetta against the glass. Typical Seattle November, gray, relentless, drowning. I was reviewing the Morrison contract when my assistant, Jade, knocked twice and opened the door without waiting for permission. "Your 3 o'clock is here," she said, her eyebrows raised in that way that meant you need to see this. I glanced at my calendar. Victoria Ashford. Divorce case. Referral from Marcus Chen. I'd worked with Marcus for years. If he was sending someone my way, they were either extremely wealthy or extremely complicated, usually both. Send her in. I expected a woman broken by infidelity, tearful and desperate. I did not expect the woman who walked through my door. Victoria Ashford moved like she owned every room she entered. Tall, probably 5'10" in the heels that clicked against my hardwood floor with military precision. Her charcoal suit was tailored to perfection, her dark hair pulled back in a way that said, "I don't have time for nonsense." She was probably in her early 40s and beautiful in that severe, untouchable way that made my breath catch. "Professional," I reminded myself. "You're a professional." "Ms. Chen?" Her voice was smoke and whiskey. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." "It's Chen Reyes, actually. Please sit." I gestured to the leather chair across from my desk. "And Marcus speaks highly of you. Any friend of his gets priority." She sat with the kind of grace that suggested either dance training or military background. Everything about her was controlled, measured, except her eyes. Those storm gray eyes held something wild, something barely contained. "I need to divorce my husband," she said without preamble, "and I need it done quickly and quietly." I pulled up a fresh document on my laptop. "How long have you been married?" 18 years. Children? No. Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or relief. "Richard and I built an empire instead. Ashford Technologies, you've probably heard of it." I had. Ashford Technologies was a biotech giant worth billions. This was going to be complicated. "Mrs. Ashford." "Victoria," she interrupted. "Please." Victoria. Her name felt dangerous on my tongue. "In Washington state, we have community property laws. If you built this company together—" "I built it." Her voice turned to steel. "He funded it initially with family money, but every patent, every innovation, every goddamn line of code, that was me, and I can prove it." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. There was a story here, something deeper than a simple divorce. "What changed? After 18 years, what made you walk into my office today?" For the first time, her composure cracked. Just slightly. Just enough to let me see the woman beneath the armor. "I woke up one morning and realized I'd spent 2 decades building someone else's dream, living someone else's life." She met my eyes, and the intensity there made my heart skip. "I'm 43 years old, Ms. Chen Reyes, and I've never once done something just because I wanted to, just because it made me feel alive." The air between us shifted, charged, dangerous. I should have referred her to someone else right then, should have recognized the warning signs, but I didn't. "Call me Sarah," I heard myself say, "and let's get you your life back." Her smile was slow, devastating. "I was hoping you'd say that." We spent the next 90 minutes going through details, assets, accounts, properties. She was methodical, prepared, had clearly been planning this for months. Smart. But every time our eyes met across the desk, Every time her fingers brushed mine as she handed me a document, I felt that spark. When she finally stood to leave, the rain had softened to a drizzle. "Thank you, Sarah." The way she said my name felt intimate. "I have a good feeling about this." "We'll start with discovery," I said, walking her to the door. "Professional. Keep it professional." "I'll need access to financial records, correspondence, anything that proves your sole contribution to the company's intellectual property." "Of course." She paused at the threshold, turning back. "Sarah, can I ask you something personal?" Every instinct screamed at me to say no. "Sure." "Are you happy? In your life, I mean." The question caught me completely off guard. Was I happy? I had a successful practice, a nice condo in Capitol Hill, friends, a life I'd built through sheer determination after my own messy divorce 5 years ago. Happy felt like the wrong word. Satisfied, comfortable, safe. "I'm content," I said finally. She studied me with those devastating eyes. "That's not the same thing, is it?" Before I could respond, she was gone, leaving only the faint scent of her perfume and the feeling that my carefully ordered world had just tilted on its axis. Jade appeared in the doorway the moment the elevator closed. "Please tell me you felt that." "Felt what?" "Sarah, come on." The chemist. 3 weeks into Victoria's case, and I was losing my mind in the most exquisite way possible. We'd met 7 times, 7 perfectly professional meetings in my office, going over documents, building her case, strategizing. 7 times I'd watched her walk through my door in those perfectly tailored suits, had caught myself staring at the elegant line of her neck, the way her fingers moved when she talked, the rare smile that transformed her entire face. 7 times I'd reminded myself that she was off limits. It wasn't working. "Sarah?" Victoria's voice pulled me back to the present. We were sitting on the same side of my desk, reviewing her husband's financial disclosures on my laptop. She'd moved her chair closer to see the screen better. I could feel the heat of her body, smell that intoxicating perfume. "Sorry, what?" "I asked if you thought the offshore accounts would be a problem." She turned to look at me, and suddenly her face was inches from mine. Time stopped. I could see the gold flecks in her gray eyes, the faint freckles across her nose that makeup almost hid, the tiny scar at the edge of her eyebrow. My gaze dropped to her lips, full, soft, currently parted slightly as she waited for my answer. "Sarah." My name was barely a whisper. I jerked back, standing abruptly. "We can subpoena the records. If he's hiding assets, we'll find them." She stood, too, slower, more deliberate. "That's not what just happened." Nothing happened. I moved to the window, putting distance between us. The Seattle skyline glittered in the darkness. When had it gotten dark? "We should call it a night. It's late." "It's 7:30. I have an early morning tomorrow." "Sarah." She was behind me now, not touching, but close enough that I could feel her presence like a physical thing. "Look at me." I shouldn't have. I should have maintained professional distance, should have asked her to leave, should have done anything except what I did. I turned around. "Tell me I'm imagining this," she said softly. "Tell me I'm reading this completely wrong and I'll never mention it again. We'll go back to being lawyer and client, and I'll pretend I don't think about you every moment of every day." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "Victoria, because I can't stop thinking about you." Her voice was raw, vulnerable in a way I'd never heard. "The way you listen when I talk, really listen, like what I'm saying matters. The way you get this little crease between your eyebrows when you're concentrating. The way you smile, which isn't often enough, by the way. I notice everything about you, and I know I shouldn't, but I can't help it. You're my client." It came out weaker than I intended. "I know. This can't happen." "I know that too." She took a step closer. So tell me to stop. Tell me you don't feel this, and I will walk out that door and never cross this line again. I opened my mouth to say exactly that. To do the right thing, the professional thing, the thing I'd built my entire career on. But I was so tired of doing the right thing. I can't, I whispered. Her hand came up to cup my face, and the touch sent electricity through my entire body. Can't what? Can't tell you I don't feel it. I was trembling. God, Victoria, I feel it so much it terrifies me. I terrify you? There was amusement in her voice now, mixed with something darker, hunger. This terrifies me. I don't do this. I don't break my own rules. I don't get involved with clients. I broke off as her thumb brushed across my lower lip. Then don't, she said. Don't break your rules. Tell me to leave. We stood there frozen in that impossible moment. Her hand on my face, my heart in my throat. The entire world narrowed down to the space between us. I should have told her to leave. Instead, I kissed her. Or she kissed me. I honestly couldn't tell who moved first. It didn't matter. What mattered was the way she tasted like coffee and mint, the way her other hand tangled in my hair, the way I'd been starving for this without even knowing it. The kiss was fierce, desperate, everything I'd been denying for weeks pouring out in a single moment. She backed me against the window, and I didn't care that we were on the 15th floor, that anyone could see, that this was possibly the most catastrophically bad decision of my professional life. I only cared about her. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, her forehead rested against mine. We can't do this, I said, even as my hands remained fisted in her jacket. I know. I could lose my license. I know. Your case could be compromised. Sarah. She pulled back just enough to look at me. I know all of that, and I'm still standing here because I haven't felt this alive in 20 years. But if you want me to walk away, if you want to pretend this never happened and go back to being my lawyer, I will. I'll find another attorney, finish the divorce, and never contact you again. Rebecca Torres agreed to take Victoria's case, no questions asked. She was one of the best divorce attorneys in Seattle, maybe the whole Pacific Northwest, and I trusted her completely. The handoff was smooth, professional, and by the end of the week, I was no longer Victoria's attorney, which meant there was no longer any ethical barrier between us. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. You look different, Jade said on Monday morning, studying me over her coffee. You're glowing. Oh my God, you slept with her. I didn't sleep with her. I kept my eyes on my computer screen. But something happened. I couldn't help the smile. I referred her to Rebecca. Jade's eyes went wide. You didn't? I did. Sarah Chen Reyes, you badass. She grinned. So when's the first date? Tonight. My stomach flipped just saying it. Dinner at Altura? Fancy. I approve. She paused. How are you feeling about all this, really? I leaned back in my chair, considering. Terrified, excited, like I'm either making the best decision of my life or about to crash and burn spectacularly. Welcome to dating, Jade said dryly. Especially dating someone going through a divorce. She had a point. Victoria was still technically married, still in the middle of what was shaping up to be a brutal legal battle. Richard Ashford had hired Lawrence Becker, known in the Seattle legal community as the Scorpion, for his tendency to sting first and ask questions never. My phone rang. Rebecca. Please tell me you're calling with good news, I said. Define good news. Rebecca's voice was tense. Richard's team just filed a motion claiming emotional distress and alleging that Victoria had an inappropriate relationship with her attorney that influenced her decision to file for divorce. My blood went cold. What? They're claiming that you manipulated a vulnerable client into leaving her marriage. They have photos of you two at your office late at night, timestamps showing multiple evening meetings. We were working on her case. I know that and you know that, but they're spinning it as evidence of an affair. Rebecca sighed. Sarah, did anything happen while she was your client? And I need you to be completely honest with me. I closed my eyes. One kiss. One perfect, terrible, completely inappropriate kiss. We kissed, I said quietly. Once, the night before I referred her to you. Silence on the other end. Rebecca? Okay. Her lawyer voice was back. Okay, we can work with this. One kiss, immediately followed by you doing the ethical thing and removing yourself from her case. You handled it appropriately. But it gives them ammunition. They're going to argue that you influenced her decision, that the entire case is tainted by your relationship. That's bullshit. Victoria wanted this divorce long before she met me. Can you prove that? I thought about Victoria's meticulous planning, the months of preparation. Yes, she has journals, emails to herself, documentation going back almost a year. Good. Get them to me. And Sarah, you need to be prepared for this to get ugly. Richard is clearly willing to go nuclear. After we hung up, I sat in my office feeling sick. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. Not just the professional consequences, but the impact on Victoria's case. My phone buzzed. Victoria, Altura at 7? Can't wait to see you. I stared at the message, torn between desire and responsibility. The smart thing would be to cancel, to put distance between us until her divorce was finalized. To protect her case, protect my career, protect both of us from the fallout. The smart thing had kept me safe and lonely for 5 years. I typed back, wouldn't miss it for anything. Altura was intimate and elegant, all dim lighting and quiet corners. Victoria was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table in a deep blue dress that made my mouth go dry. Hi, she said, standing as I approached. Hi. I wanted to kiss her, but felt suddenly shy. This was our first real date, not a client meeting, not a stolen moment in my office. She seemed to sense my hesitation and smiled, leaning in to kiss my cheek. You look beautiful. So do you. I sat down, and the waiter immediately appeared with menus and wine recommendations. Once we were alone again, Victoria reached across the table and took my hand. I heard about the motion. Rebecca called you. She did. And I want you to know, I don't care what Richard and his lawyers throw at us. This isn't about them. This is about you and me. Victoria, your case will be fine. Rebecca's already building a counter-argument, and we have evidence that I'd been planning this divorce for almost a year. She squeezed my hand. I'm not letting Richard intimidate me out of this. Out of us. There's an us? I asked softly. I hope so. Her eyes held mine. Because I meant what I said that night in your office. I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me want to be. The next 3 months were the most intense of my life. Richard's legal team went full scorched earth. They subpoenaed phone records, emails, security footage from my building. They deposed my assistant, my colleagues, anyone who might have witnessed Victoria and me together. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. One kiss while she was my client, and everything else happened after I had properly referred her case. But that didn't stop them from trying. They're desperate, Rebecca said during one of our strategy sessions. Victoria sat next to me, her hand in mine. Richard knows he's losing. The evidence of Victoria's sole contribution to Ashford Technologies is overwhelming. He's trying to muddy the waters, make this about your relationship instead of about the facts. Is it working? Victoria asked. Not with the judge. Harrison is old school, but he's fair. He sees through this nonsense. Rebecca looked at me. But Sarah, you need to be prepared. They're going to call you as a witness. My stomach dropped. What? They want you to testify about the nature of your relationship with Victoria, when it started, whether you advised her to file for divorce. That's privileged information, which is why I'll object to most of it. But you'll still have to take the stand. Victoria's hand tightened in mine. Can they do that? They can try, and honestly, it might be good. Give you a chance to put the timeline on record, in your own words, under oath. Rebecca looked at me. Think you can handle Becker's cross-examination? I'd faced Lawrence Becker in court before. He was brutal, relentless, and entirely without scruples. I can handle it, I said, but I wasn't sure I believed it. The day of my testimony, I woke up in Victoria's arms. She'd been staying at my place more nights than not, and my condo was starting to feel like ours instead of just mine. You don't have to do this, she said, stroking my hair. We could settle. Give Richard whatever he wants. I don't care about the money. But you care about your company. Not as much as I care about you. I sat up, looking at her. Victoria, Ashford Technologies is your life's work. Every patent, every innovation, that's yours. We're not letting him take it just because his lawyers want to play dirty. Sarah, no. I kissed her firmly. I'm testifying. I'm telling the truth. And we're winning this case. She searched my eyes, then nodded. Okay, but I'm coming with you. You can't be in the courtroom while I testify. Then I'll be right outside. The moment you're done, I'll be there. The courthouse was downtown, an imposing building of glass and steel. Rebecca met me outside, going over last-minute strategy. Remember, answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Becker's going to try to rattle you, make you emotional. Stay calm, stay factual. Got it. Victoria squeezed my hand. You've got this. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Harrison presided from the bench, looking stern and unimpressed with everyone equally. Richard sat at the defendant's table, looking smug. He was handsome in that polished corporate way, all expensive suits and practiced charm. I could see why a young Victoria had been impressed, but I couldn't see anything in him worth the 20 years she'd sacrificed. The court calls Sarah Chen Reyes, the bailiff announced. I took the stand, was sworn in, and faced Rebecca for direct examination. She kept it simple, established the timeline of when Victoria became my client, when I referred her case, when our personal relationship began. And did you at any time advise Mrs. Ashford to file for divorce? Rebecca asked. No, when she came to my office, her decision was already made. My job was to represent her in that divorce, nothing more. Did you manipulate or coerce her in any way? Absolutely not. Thank you. No further questions. Then Becker stood, and the real battle began. Ms. Chen Reyes, he said, prowling toward the witness stand like a predator. You expect this court to believe that you had no personal interest in Mrs. Ashford while she was your client? I didn't act on any personal feelings while she was my client. But you had them. I met his eyes. Attraction isn't a crime, Mr. Becker. Acting on it inappropriately would be, which is why I immediately referred her case to another attorney. After you'd already kissed her. The courtroom went quiet. Rebecca had prepared me for this. Yes, I said calmly. We kissed once in my office after hours. The following day, I contacted Rebecca Torres and arranged the referral. I recognized that I could no longer maintain professional objectivity. How convenient, Becker's smile was sharp. One kiss, and suddenly you're free to pursue a relationship with a wealthy client going through a difficult divorce. Objection, Rebecca called. Counsel is testifying. Sustained, Judge Harrison said dryly. Mr. Becker, do you have an Act 2? 6 months later. I'm writing this from a cafe in Santorini, watching the sunset paint the white buildings in shades of gold and pink. Victoria is beside me, sketching in the journal she started keeping, her hair loose and sun-kissed, wearing a dress she bought from a local market. We've danced in Paris, We've gotten lost in Tokyo. We've swum in Greece, hiked in New Zealand, and spent 3 weeks doing absolutely nothing on a beach in Thailand. She sold Ashford Technologies for $3.2 billion and started a foundation supporting women in STEM. I took a sabbatical from my practice, though I still consult remotely on cases that interest me. But mostly, we've just lived. Freely, fully, completely. Richard sent one last nasty email about a month after the divorce was finalized. Victoria blocked him and never looked back. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, crossing that professional line, risking my career, breaking my own rules. I tell them the truth. My only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. Because some people are worth the risk. Some connections are worth breaking all the rules. Some love stories start in the most unexpected places and change everything. She was my client. Then she became my everything. Your turn. Let's talk. Would you have crossed that line, or would you have stayed professional? Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had to choose between following the rules and following your heart? What would you have done in Sarah's position? Team, professional boundaries, or team, take the risk? And, do you want to know what happens next? Should I write about their adventures around the world? The moment Victoria knew she was in love? What happened when they came back to Seattle? Let me know in the comments. Your engagement helps me create more stories like this. Like if you loved this forbidden romance. Comment with your thoughts. Share with someone who loves sapphic love stories. What rules would you break for love?